Happy summer, Ram staffers. Uh, Teachers can't be everywhere all the time. That's one of the reasons why we created this Y Club, because we want to be able to help get you ready for next year and also help you get going on next year's yearbook already, even without me. I got a summer job. I got a class I have to take to renew my license. I got family things going on. I don't live in Mapleton, so there's a lot of games, and we really need to do a better job of covering our summer, our softball and baseball. So I want to take an opportunity with this video to give you a few pointers. Right, I'm shared these already in group. These are from Jostens. I need to share better ones because this is the actual directly from Jostens instead of me taking pictures of it. But if you happen to be using your own camera, some settings you might want to consider are putting it on the sports setting right here, especially if you know what you're doing. Otherwise, you're probably going to want, usually for action, you're going to want this TV or A or S. That means shutter mode. If it helps you to think sports mode, I guess that would help. Um, don't know whether or not you're necessarily going to be able to find all of those things on a phone if you don't have your own digital camera and you're using your phone to take pictures, which most of us would be. I probably would be. Um, but again, one of the things that you want to keep in mind is um, how soon it starts to get dark and how much light you have. Usually, the cameras that we got in cell phones are just great, so you don't necessarily need to worry too much. Um, I think probably what you guys need to know most, rather than all of the words I'm looking for, because I teach it in photography all the time: exposure and shutter speed and aperture, is actually some of where to be. Right, we'll get group pictures. Newspaper, Mapleton Press and Danbury Review will probably share their group team pictures with us. So what we need are action shots or candid shots. As you can see here on the screen, I've got, might be great to get one of the picture. And I'll show you, there's a little diagram to show you where to be to get that kind of a thing. You're not necessarily going to be able to be directly in front of the pitcher, right? For one thing, you're going to be in front of the crowd that are trying to see, right? The other thing, and there's going to be a fence between you and them. But if you can get as close as you can so that the action is coming towards you, and this is good advice for all action pictures and all sports pictures, but have them coming towards you as opposed to going past you, you're more likely to get a really good picture. And I'll show you some examples here in just a second. Same with runners. A good advice for anybody in any sports. It can be football, volleyball, basketball. You don't want to see them going away from you. You want to see them coming towards you. And if you can manage to capture a picture, that's even better. The very best sports pictures usually have got the face of our player, maybe even the ball, if that's possible. And sometimes you even have a little tension or action that's not just our player, but also an opponent. Um, Says here where you stand is going to depend on whether or not you got a left-handed or right-handed batter, and you'll be able to kind of see it's what side of the plate are they on. Which batter box are they on? And again, you don't want to be looking at their backside. You want to see their front, right? And the actual bat, and maybe you won't be able to see their face because of the hat or what have you. But if you can, all of that kind of thing is great. Um, Good advice is don't stop at one picture. Even if, because you got a job or you are playing on the team, or you have to watch a younger sibling or cousin or somebody you're babysitting, or who knows what, maybe because you don't make it to many games, or you got to pay admission, or your parents, or whatever obligations. Maybe you can't be there for the whole 3-hour game. You still want to be careful not to think that you're great if you have 4 or 5 pictures. Even though we may not be able to fit more than 10 on a page or a 2-page spread, you still want to get 10 or 20 pictures if you can do it, even more. So, oh yeah, well, you can read this, and I can give you some other advice, but mostly I want to get down to show you where to stand. Okay, so uh, these are not your best bets unless you've got a great camera with a big zoom lens. Okay, um, these are okay, but again, especially if you're like me and you're using a phone and you don't have a whole lot of zoom. um, I don't know about our home baseball field too much, but our home softball field, you can get right up to the fence and you're pretty good, and that won't be too bad. Okay, one thing you might want to think about, especially if you're on the team, maybe you're freshman or JV, and you're not necessarily starting varsity. Yeah, that actually gives you a lot of opportunities. Or if you got a friend on the team. But one thing you might want to think about is taking pictures before the game or between games. Um, you still want to be very careful to be out of the way so that you're safe and that you're not bothering or distracting anybody. And believe me, coaches will let you know. But needless to say, you can't be on the field. You can't be inside the fence during the game. But during a practice, during warm up before a game, sometimes during warm up between games, you might not be able to get way all in people's way on the field, but you could probably possibly get a little bit closer. This is why I want to point with my hands, but you can see what my hands are doing, so I'll use the cursor. See these little oranges right here, these square boxes. Um, I think they must have used like a professional field for their logo, because it's going to be more like along here by first base or by third base. But essentially, there's generally a break in the fence, right, on the far side of the dugout. Okay, and if you can't be inside the fence, but that's one place where you could stand, and there's a break in the fence. And as long as you're on the spectator side, the umpire and the officials, referees won't get too mad at you. But what's really awesome, good one, is third base, is because when you're at this opening, you can see down towards second base and you can get a picture of a runner coming towards you. You can sometimes get decent pictures of people running from first to second also. Um, but you know what, frankly, especially you're younger than I am, so you can stand to be on your knees or squat down or something. You can stay on the spectator side of the fence. You get kind of low so that you're not blocking anybody's view. And I want to show you something. So have your phone, right? Here's your chain link fence. What do you got to do? You got to try and see, right? You want to make sure that your lens, like this, that your lens, whether it's a real camera or whether it's a phone camera like this, it can see through the hole. It's pretty easy with a phone camera. But believe it or not, it's not all that hard. Let's, even though I don't have a real camera here, let's say this water bottle lens is your camera lens. Usually it'll about fit there, and it's not too bad. So, again, you don't want to be like 50 feet away. If there's any way that you can get anywhere from 15 to 5, that is like great. And again, maybe before game or between game or at a practice and not a game is a great way to get actual action where you can see the ball or you can see somebody hitting. Let me look, show you some examples. So this is at a professional baseball game. Chain link fence in this case is a net. I was using a zoom lens, but here's one thing that is good advice: patience, right? So you can't go to the game and think I'm going to get 3, 10 great shots if I'm only going to be there for 20 minutes. Again, maybe you can't stay there for the whole 3 hours, but sometimes you got to be patient. It's kind of like fishing. You're waiting for the fish to nibble. So you're not just come in and take a picture and, oh boy, I got lucky. You got to wait. You got to watch. Another thing is that whenever possible, this is a bad example because it's their backs and you don't have their faces. but where the ball is going to go or is on its way, is ahead of the action. So if you want empty space, it's better to have empty space in front of the players as opposed to behind them. If you have more open space on this side and the catcher and batter and umpire are over here on the right side, then the whole picture is kind of lopsided. It's out of whack as far as balance goes. Maybe we can't necessarily use them for the yearbook, but you could probably share them with the Danbury Review or the Mapleton Press, or maybe even Ottawa paper. Sometimes they like to have pictures of Little League, right, and T-ball and that kind of stuff. So if you've got little brothers and sisters, it might be a way for you to kind of warm up, get a sense of the game and where the players are and where the action is. So here's a great one that we get the opponent and our batter, right, and the coach that's doing the pitching. And even though we don't have our player's face, we do have the ball is actually in the shot. So that's just kind of a composition idea. One of the things that I always preach, both yearbook students and to digital photography students, is that not all action pictures are sports, and not all sports pictures have to be action. Okay. Sometimes anticipation. So in this case, this player is waiting to get pitched to, and sometimes reaction. So it's not the action of hit, because sometimes it can be really difficult to actually get the split second where the ball hits the bat, or vice versa, bat hits the ball. But you can get their face, or you can get faces of somebody on the bench in the dugout or a coach. That's awesome. That's great stuff. Apparently got a commercial there. Again, patience. You got to wait. That's how you get lucky. Another thing you can do, and I'll be honest with you, I haven't figured out how to do it necessarily on with my default app on my Apple phone, but there are different apps that you can download. Sometimes for free, sometimes they cost something, sometimes they have in-app purchases. But if you look around in your settings, there's a thing called bracketing. And cameras will usually let you do this often. When you put it on that sports setting, it does it automatically. But bracketing is where your shutter speed is so fast that you're not just taking one picture when you hit the little white circle or the button, but it takes several in a row, right? So as if these pictures, like 10, 20, 30 pictures, are between the brackets. And some of them are going to turn out and some of them aren't. You have to choose the best one. But bracketing is a great way to ensure that you're more likely to get a good one. So as you can see in this case, now I am not real close to see her face, but I can kind of see her face. I can see her jersey number, and I definitely see the ball. Now, couldn't tell you whether this is after she hit it and it's leaving, or just before she hit it and it's coming toward her. But here's the cool thing: this blurriness, that's okay, because it shows you that there's action. Another cool thing, while it's better to have a real simple background, here we have some teammates and third base coach, and they're all watching. So this even kind of makes sort of a triangle. So you want to watch for shapes and that kind of thing. Love. Oh, shoot. I wish I could zoom in better, but it's an old picture. Obviously, since this is Charter Oak U when they still had a high school. But, again, if you can have the action coming towards you, even if it's not directly towards you, but you're at an angle from her. I'm not seeing her back and her shoulders. Her mitt and her arm aren't horizontal to me. I get some of her crazy face. I can freeze the way her leg is in the windup before the pitch. Remember, softball is underhanded, so there's lots of stuff going on in the mechanics here. And I have a teammate, and the teammate's watching. Again, sometimes you get the ball and sometimes you don't, but an awful lot of times it's that reaction, not just the action. So we're still looking at his face. We know that the swing is afterward. I don't know if you can tell it or not, right? But so there's where the other side of him is with the dugout, and I'm on the opposite side, right? So this is Charter Oak playing against Boyer Valley, obviously many years ago. But Well, again, he's not aiming straight at me. I'm at enough of a angle though that I'm not looking at his side. Certainly not looking at the back. He just threw the ball, but it's kind of coming toward me, more toward the batter. Yeah. And again, if you get in that right spot or you get in that chain link fence, you know, sometimes you can get those home runs. You got to be patient. It's probably not going to be a dinger, right? Or what a grand slam kind of home run when they're sliding and all of that. But if you get a run batted in, an RBI, so much so what that they're kind of walking and you don't have all dust, it's still an action shot. It's still a score. Okay. And by the way, this is stuff that not only can you upload and use, we'll be able to use in the Rampages in the yearbook, but like I've mentioned before, I can give you her email or you send it to me and I'll send it to her and make sure that you get credit for it. But I know that Jenna Combs at the Mapleton Press, she can't necessarily be at every game too. So if you get a good shot, maybe she can use it. Maybe we can use it on Instagram for Rampages for social media or something. For that matter, maybe you can decide that, hey, I'm going to enter this in 4-H or in open class in the county fair. You never know. This is practice for you. And maybe you submit it if you ever take a photography class with me. Again, this is between plays. We don't even have the batter here. This is probably even warm up between the pitcher and the catcher. So you can get some decent shots that way. That would be more it's not really close up or tight, but one thing that I'll teach you about in digital photography, and maybe we can do that briefly in yearbook when we have a photography unit, is you got fairly close shots where you have like one player, and then in this case you have a wider shot where you have two or three people, multiple players, and then you'll have a wider shot where maybe you even have not just the catcher and the umpire, but you also have some fans or you have somebody way over on third base or something. So think in terms of a variety of kinds of shots. Some can be vertical, some like this can be horizontal, but some can be one person and maybe not even their whole body, maybe more of their face or above the waist. And some of them can be two, maybe three people like this, and then some of them can be wider, broader. Even crowd shots are fine. Okay. And again, if you do end up going to a lot of games and you go up to a Sioux City Explorer game or down to the College World Series this next month here in June in Omaha, you know, practice. It's a great way to work on your chops. And you're probably not going to get something like this with your phone. You're going to need at least like I had they call it a prosumer. It's kind of between point and shoot consumer and pro single lens reflex, a little bit in between. So not the greatest zoom, but a little bit of zoom. But you got to be patient to freeze the action. That's something that you want to do. That's it. You know, I'll put this back on our game, and I'll share this video with you both on the website. That even if it's blocked at the middle school, you're not at home. You're not in the middle school anymore. It's summer now, so your family's home computer, or your phone, or tablet, or however you could possibly watch this. I hope you get to watch it in May or June, so it helps you. And I'll see you next time. Adios.